Welcome to Make It Happen. Today we're talking all about influence. I've got my great friend Rob Ferre talking about how to be influential in the boardroom, in the office, in your life. I'm also sharing with you 3 of my most influential books I have ever read in my favorite things. And today's Pick My Brain is all about how to spend your time when you're trying to decide whether you should spend time with social media, prospecting, cold calls, and everything in between. Welcome to Make It Happen. All right, welcome to Pick My Brain. If you have a question you'd like to send in for me to answer on a future episode of the show, you can send it to Michelle@speakmichelle.com. And you can also find me on Instagram and send me a direct message that way at SpeakMichelle. But today's question comes from Scott Snavely. And his question is, how do you split your time between social media, cold contact, prospects, and networking? This is a great question. And the short answer is, it depends on your business, which is so frustrating. So Scott, please be willing to send in more questions to me and not hate me. And also please be willing to watch future episodes of the show. But this is a great question. I'm going to tell you how I handle it a little bit, and also some suggestions and guidelines I have for business owners, those in direct sales, and how they split and spend their time as well. So I split and spend my time a lot on all of these tasks would be considered marketing and sales tasks. Yet I think about everything that happens before the sale and everything that happens after the sale. So everything that happens before the sale is marketing and sales. Everything that happens after the transaction is fulfillment. And so you're talking about all sales tactics, social media, cold contacts, prospecting, networking. And so I've just kind of set some parameters. I'm going to go in reverse order for a little bit, but I have decided that I just figured out my business and figured out what worked for me and the number of times I need to be networking in a specific month. I've done everything from BNI to chambers of commerce to other kinds of referral groups and everything in between. Some of them are as frequent as once a week. Some are as, just once a month. Some are quarterly. Some you can drop in from time to time. And I have figured out that for me and my business, I get the same return on investment for going to something 2 times a month as I do going to 4 times a month. Now, I did 4 times a month for a long time, and that was great. But I also felt like I wanted to diversify my networking opportunities. So I figured out that 2 different groups once a month was right for me. And so I blocked that out on my calendar. You might find that going to a BNI group weekly and doing something else is better for you and your business. And that's something that you might just have to test and see, but that's something you can block out on your calendar and make sure that you are getting the times and spaces in that you need. If you haven't ever tried networking and you don't know how much time to spend in that category, try either a monthly or a weekly group and see what kind of groove feels best for you. And also track what kinds of business that comes from those activities. BNI is geared towards referrals and sales, and so those are easier to track on a return on investment sort of way. Some things like the Chamber of Commerce and other networking groups may be a little bit different, but it just depends on how much you invest. And for me, I go to build relationships. I don't necessarily go for sales, but then over time, those relationships turn into sales transactions. And so I'm very careful and selective about the time that I spend there because I do want to have time for other things. I have a goal to make 10 cold calls or warm calls a day. So I block that out as part of my daily, weeklies, and monthlies. It's something that I do every single day. I just crank out some phone numbers. I've got different lists that I pull, different people that I connect with. Some people I've already talked to. Some people have been at an event before and they've left their contact information, but I try to at least make those calls daily. And some people will say, sure, I'll make 50 calls a week. Weekly doesn't work for me. That has to be a daily task because otherwise I get to the end of the week and then it's Friday and I don't want to work very much and 50 calls sounds like too many, so I make none. So a daily task has been a lot more beneficial for me. Prospecting for me is doing a lot of research online, finding companies I want to connect with, businesses that I want to know. And so I will block that out in a time block weekly where I will do weekly research and prospecting to figure out the kinds of people I want to connect with, whether I mail them something, email them something, make a phone call or something else. That can all be part of prospecting for me. And then social media takes up a fairly decent chunk of my time, but I've also outsourced a portion of that over time. I don't outsource my voice. space. So I'm the one who's creating things, but then I allow other parts of my team to do the scheduling or sometimes do research or even creating graphics and reels for me, but I'm the one who's kind of creating the content. So depending on what that looks like, you could actually accomplish all of that in less than 2 hours a day. Maybe even some days it's only 1 hour, but you have other days of the week where you're doing a little bit more research or a little bit more of something else. I would encourage you that as you look at your different time blocks and how you spend your time, that you play with it for a few weeks at a time and then decide what's right for you. I know some people who spend 6 hours a day doing social media and then they're not fulfilling, they're not taking care of other aspects of their business, and that's probably too much. And then there are some people who spend 100% of their time on social media because it really brings them income and revenue. So you have to figure out what's right for you. But remember that my definition for marketing. Marketing is getting the right messages to the right masses through the right mediums so you can make money. And so you have to figure out the trifecta of those messages, mediums, and masses to help you make sure that your cold calling and your prospecting and even your social media are getting you the results you want. If you're spending too much time, but it's not giving you a return on your investment, I don't call that marketing. I call that wasting your time. So feel free to play, but after a couple of months, at the very most, you should be able to come up with a routine that matches for you what's right for you and your business. And I'm cheering you on as you figure some of that out. I know it'll take a little bit of trial and error, but every effort will be worth it as you figure out what times and spaces you need to invest in this portion of your marketing. Thank you so much for sending in the question. And thank you so much for listening to Make It Happen and picking my brain. Welcome to Make It Happen. Today we have a dear friend of mine, but a man who is influential in his own right, Rob Ferre, who is a speaker, author, and engagement expert. Rob, welcome to Make It Happen.
Wow, we made it happen today, and
yes, we did.
To be here. This is so cool. And the cool thing about this is you said dear friend, but also you are a mentor of mine. You kept me sane as we worked together at the National Speakers Association. You were the president. I was your VP or president-elect. But the great thing is when I became president, I love to call you my conciliary because you were the immediate past president and you didn't leave. You didn't say, hey, good luck, but you were there for me. And I think that's the most important thing about having a coach, having a mentor, is having access to somebody who's gone through it and can help you. And so I take every moment to thank you for you being there and just helping me through whatever we had to do, because you have superpowers that I don't. And some of those superpowers are really good at helping people just calm down, see the big picture, and you just have a way with words. Anyway, there's so many things I could say, but it's an honor to be with you, and I'm so glad you invited me to be a part of this. So now that I've done gushing.
Keep talking, because we certainly did not start. We want to talk about you, but for sure, I honor you and I am grateful for our friendship and the opportunities that we had to work together. It's also been a great pleasure of mine to watch you grow and build your business, especially over the last few years. While things for some have been tricky and hard, and you have been able to break down barriers that I have been impressed to watch and grow your business to an insanely successful level. I know there's still other things that you want to grow and accomplish and do, but today I want to talk about influence, and you're the right person to have this conversation with to help our audience understand the power of influence, how influence changes and grows and builds businesses, and also how influence determines how we decide to show up in the world. So I would love to start with, I know that you are, with all the work that you do a lot of things with engagement and conversations and getting people together. Why do you feel like a focus on influence as a small business owner, as a change maker is important in the world today?
I love being known, which is kind of funny. I walk into situations and there are times where I want to be known. People don't know me, but they're gonna know me. And if you're anything like me, you like to have relationships and build your influence through relationships, but also through service. I often equate it to maybe the freshman year of high school. Do you remember that freshman year? You walk into those hallways. You might know some people that you maybe went to elementary school with or maybe middle school. But if you're starting all over, you walk into those hallways and you're trying to think, where is my place here? I'm a lowly freshman. The seniors don't know me, but I want to be known. And I often walk into some of those situations. I walked into the National Speakers Association about 7 years ago, where we are both members. Nobody knew who I was, but immediately I wanted to be known. And so what did I do? I showed up. I would come to every meeting. I would volunteer. I'd insert myself into their business in the sense of, hey, you're doing this thing, this event. I want to be a part of it. And the first time I ever did that is we have this event called Get Paid to Speak. And I said, I want to speak at this event. What can I do? How can I want to be a part of this. And I have what is also called FOMO, fear of missing out, which is sometimes a detriment to what I do, but I do this with everything. I go to conferences and conventions. I did this with the DJ community. I'm also a business owner in entertainment business, which is surrounding DJ events for weddings, bar mitzvahs, primarily here in Utah. And never did I get into business to do business. And we had a conversation about that. But when I started going to these DJ events, I wanted to know the cool kids. I always wanted to be one of the cool kids. And so what I do is I get to know them. I go to those dinners. I go to those times where they have like little exclusive events, and I insert myself. Then I also see people doing things without me, and I'm like, what is this thing? I want to know about this thing. Can I come to this thing? And I'm always doing that. And so that's kind of the way I live life. Now, not everybody is as assertive as I am. So I think one of the best ways you can spread your influence is serving others. And that's what I did within our chapter of the National Speakers Association. And that's what I've also done within the grand scheme of our national association by volunteering. I started volunteering by going to, going to their national conference, which, funny enough, is called Influence. And you would know that, but maybe not our listeners or viewers. And when I first went to that conference, I knew I found my people. I found my tribe. And whenever that happens, you want to know everybody. And that's me. And so I started volunteering. I started working with the youth programs. And another way I volunteered is I started speaking to chapters around the country. And I wanted to be known for my superpowers and wanted to be known for that person. When people think of Michelle McCullough, what do they think of? And is that the vibe? Is that the thing that you're putting out into the universe? And that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to share with everybody my superpowers. So that was a long answer to maybe a short question. So hopefully...
No, it's great.
Kind of answers what you were looking for.
Yeah, for sure. And you have a philosophy that you learned from your DJing days that is about putting yourself out there and not being afraid to put yourself out there and even being first to do it. Tell us more about that and how we can apply that with our businesses.
It's my methodology. It's called Be the First One on the Dance Floor. Now, when it comes to this, it's about creating a movement and getting people to follow and getting people to be a part of something. So I have observed dance floors all throughout my career. Over the last 15, 20 years, I've seen how people react to a dance floor. Now, the dance floor can be the metaphor for whatever idea or maybe the boardroom. Wherever you do your thing, that is your dance floor. It could be your stage. It could be maybe your Facebook group. Wherever you want to spread influence, that's your dance floor. And sometimes it takes a little bit of courage to get out there and to be the first one. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I can't be that first one. You don't always have to be the first person. You can be the second person out there. You could see Michelle's doing something. I want to be a part of what Michelle's doing. Michelle has this great group of entrepreneurs who she's educating and creating this thing. And I want to be a part of that. So can I go and dance with Michelle and validate what she's doing? So are you a part of a group or a community or want to create one? You have to get out there and just start doing instead of just staring. Do you remember those times in like middle school or maybe even recently? Maybe you went to a wedding or a corporate event and there's this dance floor and it seems very daunting and you stare at it thinking, I don't know if I want to be a part of this, or how do I get started, or I don't have the right moves. And we're always thinking to ourselves, I don't have what it takes, or maybe I don't have the courage. So I encourage people to find different opportunities. If you're leading somebody, you have to initiate. You have to get out there first. You have to be the first one out there. You have to present the idea, but you also have the right timing and the right why. Second step is guiding others. You could be a part of the guidance, or you guide others. So Michelle has this great thing, this great platform, this community that she's creating, but she can't do it all by herself. Think about yourself. Are you doing this all by yourself? You need to guide others. So when I think of the metaphor of guidance, what's a song that guides others to dance, Michelle? Pop quiz.
Like, name a song?
Yes. Give me a song that guides others.
Can't Stop This Feeling, Justin Timberlake.
Okay. I'm going to kind of give that to you. That's a groove. That's a good song that's going to get people to dance. But a song that specifically tells you what to do.
The YMCA.
There you go. Everybody's applauding the team. So the YMCA, for example, you see people doing it. They're raising their hands. YMCA. I can do that. Maybe there's people who don't know how to do the YMCA. I'm going to give you another one. The Macarena. Oh boy. Everyone loves that Macarena, right? But this song came out when I was in high school. That might date us, right? But I remember doing that in my high school arena or at the stadiums, and everybody was doing it because we all knew how to do it. So if you could guide others to do the same thing, it takes that inhibition out. Well, I can do the thing. I can do the hokey pokey. I can put my left foot in, my left foot out. That's how you guide people, but it gives them confidence. So we have to give them the tools to get out into the dance floor. Do you remember that episode of Seinfeld? Did you ever watch Seinfeld?
Sure.
Okay, do you remember the episode with Elaine when she walked out onto the dance floor?
Yep. People tell me I dance like Elaine.
Well, you know what? If you dance like Elaine and own it, that's one thing. But if you're completely unaware, people aren't going to want to join you, because in that episode she was completely unaware of the people around her. But imagine if Elaine was out there dancing like a wild, crazy person, and then you're standing there watching Elaine, judging her. Or could you say, you know what? Elaine's confident. She's got the courage to go out here and do her thing. I'm going to join her. So I think that's a great example. But there's another example. Do you remember the movie Can't Buy Me Love?
Yes.
From the 80s. Patrick Dempsey. Okay. He's this nerd. And he goes to the prom. And Patrick Dempsey doesn't know dance moves. He's like a fake cool guy, right? Because he paid this gal to make him cool. So to get in preparation for the prom, he watched like the History Channel or something, or PBS, and he watched this African dance. And so he's like, cool, I'm going to do that. So he goes out and he starts doing this tribal dance. Do you remember this? And
I do.
People started staring at him going, this is weird. This is awkward. And then somebody on the sideline said, well, if he's doing it, it's got to be cool. So you can make the most awkward dance moves cool. And this is all about getting others to be included in your idea. It might be revolutionary, it might be different, it might be disruptive. But let's say you are staring at a dance floor and somebody's doing that weird, awkward dance. You can join them. And then you make it cool. So that's the second step. The third and final step is ownership. We want to let people own that dance floor because, Michelle, if you're constantly trying to guide people, get people to come out to the dance floor, you are going to wear out. So if you could train some others and scale that dance floor and get more people involved, they can now own it. You can be the spark plug, but you can't be the battery. Okay, Michelle? You might get
I like it.
Who have you guided? And now your community is growing without you having to be there because you've guided others. And we've seen these movements all throughout pop culture. For example, do you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge? Do you remember that one?
I do remember the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Did you do it? Did you participate?
I did do the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Challenge others to do it?
Sure.
Do you even know where it came from?
I vaguely remember it was a cause driven.
It was a cause
for ALS.
Yes. Wait a second. Yes, it was a cause for ALS, but not a lot of people remember who was the person that started it. His name was Pete Frates. He has since passed away from ALS, but he started this movement to bring more awareness and for people to donate. And because he started this, everybody else in the world owned it. Isn't that interesting? Sometimes we don't remember who started it, but we do remember everybody else who influenced us to do it. Michelle challenged me to do it. You didn't, but let's say, for example, you challenged me because you took ownership of that movement and you made it yours and you helped give it to me as well. So that's how movements are made, and that's how influence is increased if you want to create a movement. And so sometimes I try and do that myself. And I think it's really important if you have an idea and you have a concept and you want more people to be a part of it, is maybe following some of those steps or just simply showing up and serving.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And I think that it's a good reminder to recognize that there are times where you can be the first one and there are times when you can follow and allow others to lead, but you can help make things bigger. So it's not always about being first, but it's about being there at the right time to move things along, and you can still be influential even if you come in midway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love this conversation. I also know that the last couple of years have been weird, and we have been challenged and forced to do different things as humans, as businesses, as societies. How do you see the power of influence shifting, or what have you done to be able to stay relevant in a really weird world?
So we're probably talking about 2020, right? I think we're all like dancing around this thing that happened in 2020, and we use the proverbial dirty word pivot. Oh, pivot. Oh. But a lot of us had to pivot. But what I saw in 2020 was an opportunity to do something different, to serve, or to flex a different superpower. And a lot of us were able to do that. Some of us didn't know what to do. A lot of our friends who were in the speaking or entertainment and live event world, those things went away for us. So we had to figure out, how do we do what we do in a different way, or how do I connect with my community? One of those ways for me was doing the Doorstep DJ. There's a guy behind the scenes who is producing this. His name is Tyler McCullough. I came to his neighborhood. It was one of my favorite experiences. And what I did is I had everybody stay on their doorsteps or on their front yard, and we did a dance party. Everybody was able to connect through the power of music. And so that was one way I was able just to find what I do in a different way, because a traditional community dance party or an event, we all gather at a park, we all have like drinks, food, whatever, we're all on a dance floor together. We couldn't do that, but I still wanted to connect with my community. So I found a different way, and it stretched me and it challenged me. I also did the same thing when it came to virtual events. I was like, okay, we're in our homes, but how do I connect with maybe clients, no clients? I don't know. Maybe even my community that I serve, my NSA community. I was chapter president and we had to go virtual. But at that point, I decided to see what other people are doing. I am not full of all these wonderful random ideas, but I've seen how other people do it. And I think that's also a power of influence, is being inspired by others. I was inspired by my friend Clint Pulver and Jason Hewlett, who built a virtual studio. I had that FOMO factor. Well, if they're doing it, I got to do it, right? And then I saw what the National Association was. They were doing weekly check-ins. They were calling them town halls. Well, that's a good idea. I'm going to take that idea and do that for my own chapter. And during those times when I was doing the weekly town halls, I was finessing my skills as a virtual MC, which I eventually turned into a job. I made up a job, right? And for some of us who are in this entertainment space, speaking space, we're kind of making it up as we go. And but we create our own niche. A friend of mine, her name's Quinn Conyer, she's an MC as well. Who was recently on a podcast, and she talked about how she created her own niche. Can you do that? When people say, I need this, do they think of you? Because you're the only one that does it, right? You've created the marketing blueprint. Whenever people talk about marketing, but even social media and storytelling and all things rolled into one, I think of Michelle McCullough. I mean, we're going to be working together in October. We're going to be doing some training together. I had somebody said, we needed this. I said, I got this. And her name is Michelle McCullough. So I'm really excited about that. You signed the contract, right, though?
I'm waiting for it.
Okay. But these are the things that we can do is we can help spread our influence by also being inspired by others and including others. I got a lot of my work because of my community. Because I was already serving, because I was known, people were sending me work constantly, which was a great blessing for me in the sense that I was already doing the hard work. And then people were like, hey, well, we need somebody to add some entertainment to our virtual event. Well, I know a guy. His name is Rob. And that has spun off so much work for me. And I'm still doing virtual events from home. I do virtual game shows from home. And I'm working with awesome clients like Zoom on this platform we're on right now. Even WebEx, their competitor. And I'm doing events for Amazon, for Google, all from the comfort of my home. So I just added another revenue source. And 2020 was a hard year. We were actually working together. And during that year leading up to it, I was doing all the why not me? Why not me? Why is this not working out? Why are these opportunities not coming? And I had to shift what I was thinking about why not me, because I was doing the comparison game, which is really hard because when you're surrounded by awesome people, you often compare yourself. Well, I can do what he does, but I can do it better. Don't think about it that way. Think about that's his superpower. What is mine?
I love that.
Talks about that all the time is Jason Hewlett.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about your signature move. I like to say superpower, signature move. You got to lean into it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what I hope people are listening is, regardless of what's going on in the world, you have an opportunity to show up and use your gifts and find new ways to do things. And I think you were an incredible example of that. Last week on Make It Happen, we talked about how to recession-proof your business. And it would be really easy to sit back and to say, oh, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to do it. But the same thing happened in 2020. You could sit back and say, oh, well, events are done and weddings aren't happening and speaking isn't happening. And you got creative. And because you got creative, your business didn't slide. It grew. And so it's a great example of opportunities of ways that we use our superpowers, we use our influence, and we start to innovate and find new ways to do things instead of getting stuck doing things old ways that may not serve us anymore. And I think that's an important and powerful message.
Yeah. And when we did our coaching together, I wrote down all these goals and all these things for 2020. And it was called like 2020 prosperity. I actually still have that down in my garage. I'll take a picture and show it to you. But I still have it hanging up. And I looked at half of those goals and I haven't accomplished this, haven't accomplished that. But I wrote it down. And there's still things I want to accomplish. But I was able to find different things to accomplish, do different things. I mean, it was a huge roadblock, but I left it open for new opportunities. And so one of my greatest opportunities is this summer, and in just a couple of weeks, is where I'll be emceeing the National Speakers Association National Conference Influence. And this is something I kind of manifested years ago, 6 years ago. I remember jumping onto the stage with my friend Clint Pulver, my wingman, who is an amazing speaker as well. And we stood on that stage and we took a selfie and we said to each other, one day we're going to be on this stage together. We're going to make it happen. And we're going to make it happen again this year. We're going to be able to cross that stage as certified speaking professionals, where we both got it together in the same year. And it's crazy to think that I was able to put that onto my list. And so I challenge your listeners, if they want some action items, I'm going to give you 3. And it's called your dance card. And your dance card can be anything you want it to be. It can be an opportunity. It could be a stage. It could be somebody you want to meet, whatever you want to do. But you have 3 opportunities. And sometimes people say to me, like, well, what's a dance card? It's something they used to do back in the day where you would be at a dance and you would write down a name instead of asking somebody. You'd write it down. You'd present, "You're on my dance card." So if you don't like dancing, it could be your playlist. It could be your music, whatever you want to do. But that first one is write down a person that you've never met that you always wanted to meet, or an opportunity or a stage that you want to perform on or be at. Number 2 is write down a name of a person that you know but don't know very well and wish you would know better. Or maybe an opportunity that you've been working on, or maybe a community that you wish you could do more with. Then the last one is saying thank you. Give an opportunity to say thank you to somebody who's helped you along the way, or a way to give back to that community. And then the last one is to leave it open for new opportunities. I lied. There's 4. Number 4 is symbolic. Just leave it open for new opportunities.
I love it. That's a great way to end this episode. Rob, you are incredible. Thank you so much for being part of Make It Happen and sharing your influence with me and with our audience as well. Where can people find out more about you? Where can they connect with you?
They can go to robferre.com, ROBFERRE, or you could find me on Instagram at Rob Ferre as well. Love to connect.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include those links in our show notes so people can find them. But again, thank you for being part of Make It Happen. And thanks to all of you for listening. Welcome to a few of my favorite things. Today, I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite books that are timeless classics. And I didn't bring them with me because mostly by now I'm listening to them on Audible. I often share with you some of my favorite reads and the things that I'm reading right now. But I want to share with you some timeless favorites that I regularly revisit and that have been very influential on me. The first and foremost, my number 1 favorite success principles book that I've ever read is How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. It is a powerful book that goes through a lot of thoughts on mindset, growth, personal development, but it does so in a way that has you think about your life as a whole rather than in short-term goal segments. Now, I love goals and I will always talk about goals, but the ways that I listen to and frame my life differently because of that book by Clayton Christensen, it really has been one of the most influential things I've ever read. The second book I want to share with you that takes a little bit different turn is The Content Rules by Ann Handley. It's a little bit old. I say that in the acknowledging how the social media and content landscape has changed. However, a lot of the principles that she talks about in that book are really important for you to be able to leverage in a lot of ways. A lot of the things that I do and teach now were because of principles that I tried and experimented with through Content Rules. So Content Rules is like a marketing must-have. And there are a lot of other great marketing books that are out there that you can listen to. Seth Godin has a bunch of them that I also like, but I often go back to The Content Rules by Ann Handley. And third, but last but certainly not least, I really enjoy the book, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And it's just a simple, short chapter book where there's a lot of principles. I keep it by my nightstand. I listen to it on my phone from time to time when I just want a quick little bit of information. It gets me focused back on activities that will help bring success into my life and keep me high performance. So those are 3 of my favorite timeless, tried and true books. I would love to hear some of yours and create a success book list. So if you'll share in the comments some of your favorite tried and true books that have been the most influential for you, I'd love to add yours to my list. And those are a few of my favorite things. Today's episode was jam-packed with all kinds of influential tips and ideas. I hope you're starting to think about ways you can implement different aspects of influence into your life, especially as we move into an interesting 12 to 18 months ahead, coming out of a weird couple of years. I know there is awesome things ahead of you in your future, and you have the power to influence and to follow where appropriate to help grow your business and your personal life as well. Thank you for being part of Make It Happen. I would be honored if you would leave an honest rating or review so others looking for podcasts could find this one because of the things that you had to say. Thank you for being part of this community. Follow along with the conversation online at Speak Michelle on Instagram and also at speakmichelle.com. Thanks for being here, and we wish you the best as you make it happen.